Welcome to Skytech-Lens, right? Let's talk about a plan. The United States government, facing a budget hole, decided it needed a clever way to fill it. After passing the One Big Beautiful Bill Act in July 2025, the national deficit was projected to swell by a terrifying $3.4 trillion over the next decade. So, what was the genius solution? Tariffs. Specifically, a shiny new 10% tariff on pretty much everything coming into the country. The thinking went like this: we'll tax all the foreign stuff, rake in billions and use that cash to pay for our tax cuts. It's a simple idea. The initial numbers even looked promising. In July 2025, customs revenue shot up by a staggering 273% compared to the year before. On the surface, it looked like the plan was working. But as we're about to see, that's not quite how the world works. So, let's get one thing straight. A tariff is a tax. It's not some magical economic force field that only affects foreigners. It's a tax, and like most taxes, you are the one who ends up paying it. The government calls them customs duties, which sounds delightfully old-fashioned. But calling it a duty doesn't change the fact that it's a cost added to products the moment they arrive in the country. Think of it as a cover charge for goods wanting to enter Club America. This is what economists mean when they talk about a hidden tax. It's not listed on your receipt next to the VAT or sales tax. Instead, that cost is baked into the final price of the product you're buying. The price of your new television, your child's toys, the trainers on your feet, they all quietly creep upwards. The argument that outsiders pay is a comforting myth. While foreign exporters might absorb a tiny fraction of the cost, the vast majority is passed on to the importer, who then passes it on to you. The process is insidious because it's invisible. This makes tariffs a politically convenient way to raise money. You get the revenue without the immediate public backlash that comes from, say, raising income tax. But the economic effect is the same, if not worse. To understand why tariffs hit your wallet so hard, you need to follow the money. Imagine a container full of shiny new laptops is loaded onto a ship in Asia, destined for a port in California. The moment that ship docks, the tariff clock starts ticking. The American company that ordered those laptops has to pay the 10% tariff to customs officials right there at the port. This immediately ties up their cash. That initial tariff payment is now part of the laptop's base cost. Next, the container has to be moved from the port to a warehouse. The shipping company that trucks it inland calculates its fee based on the value of the goods and the cost of transport. Since the tariff has already increased the laptop's cost base, the insurance and handling fees also go up. Every single step in the supply chain that follows adds its own markup. By the time that laptop reaches the shelf at your local electronics store, the initial 10% tariff has grown into a much larger price increase. This ripple effect is what makes tariffs so damaging to an economy. So, the government is collecting all this new tariff money. Billions of dollars are flowing into the Treasury's coffers. That must be making a huge dent in the deficit, right? Well, this is where we get to the saddest part of the story. The amount of money being raised by tariffs is, to put it mildly, completely and utterly dwarfed by the sheer scale of the problem it's supposed to solve. Let's look at the cold, hard numbers. As of August 2025, the national debt stood at over $37 trillion. The real killer, though, isn't just the total debt, it's the interest we have to pay on it. In the first 10 months of the fiscal year alone, the net interest payments on the public debt hit a jaw-dropping $1.013 trillion. Now compare that to the tariff revenue. Even with the most optimistic projections, let's say the new tariffs bring in around $300 billion a year. It doesn't touch the principal debt, and it doesn't pay for any new government services. Let's move away from the dizzying world of trillions and deficits and talk about what this all means for actual human beings. Because, at the end of the day, economic policy isn't just some academic exercise, it lands right on your kitchen table. The most direct impact of widespread tariffs is, of course, higher prices. Suddenly, the weekly shop costs more. That new washing machine you needed is 15% more expensive. The cost of school supplies for your kids has jumped. For families on a tight budget, this isn't a minor inconvenience. It's a crisis. When prices for essentials go up, but your wages don't, you're forced to make difficult choices. This financial pressure creates real stress and hardship, eroding the quality of life for millions of people. The pain isn't just felt by consumers, it's a nightmare for businesses too, especially small ones. This hesitation, multiplied across thousands of businesses, leads to slower economic growth, fewer job opportunities, and a general sense of stagnation. Businesses caught between rising tariff costs and customers who just can't afford higher prices have to get creative. And well, by creative, I really mean sneaky. When a company can't pass on the full cost increase directly without scaring away customers, it turns to a whole playbook of tricks to protect its profits. One of the most common is something called shrinkflation. This is the magical process where the price of your favorite packet of biscuits stays the same. But when you open it, you find there are mysteriously fewer biscuits inside. Another tactic is to quietly reduce the quality of the product. Companies will also cut back on discounts and promotions. They're chipping away at the value you receive in subtle ways, hoping you won't notice that the deal isn't as good as it used to be. This isn't just happening in supermarkets either. In the world of electronics, a company might release a new model of a product that has fewer features than the old one, but costs the same. For businesses, these are rational decisions. They're just trying to survive in a high-cost environment. But for consumers, it's a slow and steady erosion of value. You're constantly being asked to accept a little bit less for your money. After months of watching businesses struggle and prices climb, even the most ardent tariff supporters in Washington started to realize that maybe, just maybe, their master plan had a few kinks. The chaos and uncertainty were becoming a major political liability. In response, both Congress and the administration began a frantic effort to apply some sticking plasters to the wounds they had created. Congress started moving towards what it called calendar clarity. This basically meant publishing a fixed schedule of tariff rates for the year ahead, so businesses could at least plan. Lawmakers also began debating targeted product-based exemptions. Meanwhile, the White House, not wanting to be left out of the let's fix our own mess party, took action on the customs front. The administration published new, clearer guidelines on how to classify goods and determine their country of origin. These steps were a welcome dose of common sense. Providing exemptions, calendars, and clearer rules is what you do when you realize your broad, sweeping policy is a clumsy instrument that's hitting all the wrong targets. So if the current strategy is a bust, what's the alternative? The answer isn't to simply scrap all tariffs and pretend borders don't exist. The real solution lies in being smarter, more targeted, and focused on the one thing that can actually solve our budget problems in the long run: genuine economic growth. Instead of a blanket tax on everything, we should be using a scalpel. Targeted tariffs can still be a useful tool in specific cases, but they should be the exception, not the rule. The main focus of government policy and investment should shift from taxing consumption to boosting production. Imagine if instead of just taxing imported goods, we invested in making our own economy more efficient and competitive. This means spending money on things that actually generate a return. For example, modernizing our energy grid to lower power costs for factories and homes, or digitizing our ports with electronic queuing systems to speed up the movement of goods. These are investments that pay for themselves over time by making the entire economy more productive. This approach creates a virtuous cycle. When you boil it all down, what do families and businesses really need from their government? It's one simple thing: stability. People need to know that the price of milk isn't going to jump by 20% because of a sudden policy change. Businesses need to know that the rules for importing parts won't be rewritten overnight. This predictability is the bedrock of a healthy economy. It allows families to plan their budgets and save for the future. It gives businesses the confidence to invest, expand, and create jobs. Tariffs, especially when used as a blunt, unpredictable budget tool, are the enemy of stability. The experiment of using high tariffs to balance the budget has provided a clear, if painful, lesson. It has shown that there is no easy shortcut to fiscal responsibility. Trying to tax our way to prosperity through trade barriers has proven to be a costly failure. The path forward requires a return to fundamentals. First, trade policy must be strategic and targeted, not a clumsy instrument of revenue collection. Second, the government must focus on creating real, long-term value through smart investments in energy, technology, and infrastructure. Thanks for watching a video. Subscribe to the channel now for more updates. Thanks.